All right, it's time for the basketball show as we get going. That's Taylor Corn. I'm Jim Dunaway. It's our last mailbag until we get into the NCAA tournament, but because Selection Sunday is next week, we're off to Nashville for the SEC tournament. We have one, two, three, four, five, six, 7 questions from our mailbag. We're going to get to a lot of them is coming off the game, so I won't reflect on that game where Alabama won yesterday down at Neville 93-91 in overtime, back on Saturday, I should say. Some of you are watching this on Monday or Tuesday. So let's just jump into the questions, Taylor, and we'll start reacting to that. Bryce says, did the win by Alabama mean anything in the big scheme of things? I'll start with you. I've got my thoughts. You go first. Did the win by Alabama mean anything?
Yeah, I mean, I think you always want a rivalry game means something, no matter if you're playing for, if this game would have been the deciding factor of the SEC regular season or not, if it decided nothing like it did in terms of the SEC, yes, it always means something. You always want to beat your rival, no matter if you're playing for, something bigger than just a rivalry win or not. I think in terms of if you're looking at things from an Alabama perspective, I think it meant more in the grand scheme of things in terms of seeding. And the reason I say that is because Joe Lenardi said on the bracketology that he posted prior to the game that, which again, he's not, the end all be all, but he's one of the main bracketologists that people pay attention to. And he said that a win for Alabama would put them back into the conversation of ending up as a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. So I think that in that perspective, the grand scheme of things, it meant a lot for Alabama. But even if that, weren't a conversation, I think it still means something because of how intense the rivalry is. Would you agree?
I would agree. I would agree. I would say I've got 4 things that made it important. One of them is the rivalry, right? Anytime Auburn and Alabama play anything and anything, anytime, no matter what the stakes are, it means something. There have been many of football Iron Bowls where, say, Alabama was on a championship season and Auburn played their butts off, and Alabama had to go 4th and 31 to win the game. Alabama had a lot more on the line in that game than Auburn did. They mean things when they play each other. It doesn't matter whether it's just a random game in Montgomery in baseball off where it doesn't even count in the SEC standings. Occasionally they play down in the Capital City Classic or something. It just means something when those two programs play, so that matters. It was Auburn's senior day. I mean, it had to mean something to the Alabama players to do to them what Florida had come in and done to them in Tuscaloosa, which was, spoil a perfect senior day. So that was something. But for Alabama specifically, it's momentum. They had lost 4 of 6. They had lost 2 in a row to really good basketball teams. And when you go in, you beat a team with Auburn's resume in a place that is considered one of the toughest places to play in America. It's got to do something for your confidence. It'll be in the discussion as the best win of the regular season because Auburn was the dominant overall #1 team in the country, and you went into their place and won it. So, was it Florida's win in Auburn? Was it Alabama's win in Auburn? Somebody will make that decision, but the wins in Auburn, I believe, were the best regular season wins in college basketball this year. And that's a testament to Auburn's resume. So beating that team means a lot. And as you said, for Alabama, it's a chance to be on a one line. Now they're in that 4 or 5 swing zone where really, I don't know if it's really going to change the difficulty of your path. You're going to be either the weakest #1 or you're going to be the strongest #2 and end up playing the weakest #1. So, whoever they end up being, you're probably going to play the same team in the Elite Eight if everybody stays chalk. So I don't know if that ends up meaning a whole lot, nor do I mean if for some reason Duke ends up being the overall #1 and Auburn ends up being the #2 #1. I don't think that would change their paths either. So if Alabama could get to a one line, it would be a sweet another. They were the #1 overall seed a couple of years ago. It gave them nothing except a loss in the Sweet 16. So I don't think it's going to change the path of difficulty. But for a team that was searching for confidence. You just beat the best resume in college basketball on their floor on senior day, and that's got to put a little air in your chest. Bryce, we appreciate the question there. Couple of things out of that game. One of them was Chad Baker-Mazara being ejected with a flagrant two. Tony wants to know, do you think, or maybe it's Troy, one of those two wants to know, do you think Chad Baker-Mazara will be suspended for the first game of the SEC tournament? I'll give you a quick answer here and then I'll let you go, Taylor. No, you go.
I don't know because would I be surprised? Neither decision would surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if he wasn't. It wouldn't surprise me if he was. And we don't really have anything to base this off of because when something similar happened last season, it was the last game of the season. So we didn't get to see how Bruce reacted in terms of coaching. Um and the decision that he would have made because there wasn't, their next game was the first game of this season.
Right.
So I don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised if he was. Wouldn't be surprised if he wasn't. But I lean no as well. And this is just my opinion, but I think he was punished in the game how he should have been punished. He got the punishment that, he deserved. And I don't know if you want to carry that, deal with it in the locker room after the game. I'm sure that he had a talking to. I'm sure that some of the leaders on the team, Janai probably talked to him as well. But do you want to drag it on to the postseason, if that makes sense?
No, it does because it's a new season. And you don't want to carry baggage from the regular season into the postseason. It's interesting how we read those questions differently because when I saw that, I thought he meant like from the Southeastern Conference, like they would suspend him a game because of the incident on the court, like somehow taking the flagrant two and turning it into a 1 game suspension. I never thought about Bruce Pearl. You saw it as the coach saying enough's enough. You're going to sit down for 1 game, learn your lesson. We read those totally different because I gave my quick answer thinking, is the SEC going to suspend him a game? Like you
No,
get,
why would the SEC suspend
well,
him?
you get some stuff like in football, targeting, you're out first half. Sometimes if there's something flagrant that happens, players can be suspended. You see it in the pros sometimes. That's why I gave such a quick answer. I didn't think the SEC would step in. You went with the coach. By Bruce's comments post game, honestly, Janai's post-game comments were more harsh than Bruce's were. BP was talking about retaliation in his comments, and Janai was just flat out, man, I know you wanted to be out there with us. You got to learn from it and do better, basically, is what I'm paraphrasing, but that's basically what Janai was saying. Bruce was like, he can't retaliate. I haven't looked at it yet, but I'm sure it was retaliation. So um, I think it's policing by the rest of the players, by the senior leadership that keeps Chad Baker in line, and I don't think the coaches suspend him at all. Funny how we read those differently though. It's crazy.
Yeah, I didn't. I mean, I didn't think
Yeah.
about the SEC stepping in. I didn't think it
Yeah.
was.
And I didn't think about Bruce stepping in. It's really interesting. Okay, now BP on another comment he went on after the loss was his thoughts on Johni Broome, who 14, 15 touches in the paint and with no fouls called against Alabama, the defender on Johni Broome. And he said he wasn't happy about that. I'm going to tell you, I haven't shared this yet. I didn't tweet about it. I didn't take a picture or anything, but I will share what I observed after Bruce's post-game conference, and then I'll let you answer. The representative from the Southeastern Conference who was there, and Bruce with the Auburn athletic director had a nice little, I'm going to call it a 20-minute conversation. It was at least 20 minutes where I walked by 2 or 3 times. I won't go into what they were talking about, but it was about Johni Broome at one point and the lack of fouls being called on the National Player of the Year candidate in the paint. BP wasn't happy that he thought that Janai was getting fouled and there were no calls, and he was expressing that to anybody that would listen, including the SEC representative afterwards. So my thought on that is it was a very physical game. Big men always take the brunt of a physical game more than the guards do. Um, and I thought Alabama's defense played really well on Johni Broome. So obviously, BP and the coaching staff at Auburn were seeing things differently. They were a lot closer than I was. I'm on the third level up there watching at Auburn Arena. But I went back and watched it today, and yeah, there are fouls. There are fouls that could be called, I feel like there are fouls that could be called at the other end too. I'm interested in what you think on BP's thoughts.
I looked at it from a big picture perspective, not so much just that that game. Um, and I think the frustration is coming from the fact that, like you said, he's the National Player of the Year. He's not getting, the whistle that an elite big man would typically get. But I don't think, and I think where things are getting construed a little bit is the fact that they're not asking him to be officiated different than other players in the conference, other players just in college basketball in general that play the same position as him. They're asking him to get an equal whistle because when you look at, I looked at numbers, and Brad Law, this was maybe a month or two ago now, did a whole like spreadsheet breakdown of it because he started noticing. I'm assuming he started doing it just because he was watching, and blind eye was like, so this seems off, and he did a whole spreadsheet of elite players in college basketball playing the same position as Johni Broome, how many free throw attempts they take per 2-point attempt, or how many 2-point attempts they're taking free throws after. And so I looked, and Mark Mitchell is a comparison, and this is one example. We're not doing a full show on Johni Broome's free throw percentage in comparison to others, but I do think it's interesting. So Mark Mitchell has attempted 239 2-point shots. He has taken 206 free throw attempts. Johni Broome has 345 2-point attempts and has taken 150 free throws. So Mark Mitchell has 100 less 2-point attempts and 55% more free throw attempts. So I think that those are probably, if I had to guess, the types of things that they're looking at within the conference and just across the country. Like, why is that the case?
And I would say in this game in particular, the Alabama doesn't have an offensive weapon like Johni Broome on the inside. So at the other end of the floor, there wasn't a big man who was getting the ball in the paint down low and trying to make a move like Johni. Alabama doesn't have that piece. They're driving to the basket. And so, Alabama's probably not a great comparison, but the guards always get, I mean, my goodness, sometimes you just run by them and you don't even touch them sometimes, really, guards, when they're shooting, and they'll get, if the shot's no good, they'll get two free throws if it goes in, or three free throws, depending on where they are. And if it goes in, they'll get an and one. And the guys down low, for the history of basketball, wear those fouls all day long. And I understand Janai. He should get more calls. I brought it up earlier this year how Cooper Flag driving to the basket gets to the free throw line more than Janai down low when he's doing his post up and his quick hook. And that's another thing. He's so fast with the shot, so nimble with the shot, so quick to get it up on that hook that he doesn't get some of the calls he probably should get. But obviously, BP a little frustrated with that. One thing about it, when you speak it into existence like that, when you call such attention to it, the officials see this, they know that, and that may help you in the next game, not against Alabama particularly, just your next game, and then down the road, maybe some calls will start going Janai's way, something you can make a point to the officiating crew. I'm gonna put Barrett's and Hunter's question together. I'll read both of them, and we'll react big picture here to this. I believe it's Beckett that says, I'm starting to paraphrase, I'm starting to lose faith in Auburn down the stretch here. Hunter says, did Auburn peak too early? So we'll mash those two together and comment on where we think Auburn is right now. And I'll let you go first on this one.
No, I don't think so. I think that Auburn fans have been spoiled this season because of how few losses the team has. Two of them coming back to back, obviously not ideal. No one's going to be happy about that. But when you look at the season as a whole, they've lost 4 games and they've won 27. Their losses have come against elite competition, and and then looking forward. So no, I don't think that there's reason to panic because no one is going to complete the season unscathed. And maybe it's making people nervous because the back-to-back losses came, closer to the postseason when you lose, you're done. And I get that. And I think that there are some things that, you can be concerned about in terms of rebounding. I think that that's something that you could have a little concern about. Um, but something that I find interesting, and I can't remember which of the two said, like, give me a reason why Auburn is poised to make a run. And this is something that I've talked about a couple times throughout the season. Auburn, first off, Auburn is 6-0 when they're playing at a neutral site. All of the games from here on out, they're not going to be at home, but they're also not going to be on the road. They're all going to be, neutral site games. Tahad is shooting, and now these are some player shooting percentage comparisons between playing at home and on the road. These are road games and they're neutral site. They're, just grouped into away from home. Tahad is shooting 33.7% from the field at home, 49.2, 12% better on the road. And he is shooting 33.3% from three at home and 45.8% on the road. Miles is shooting 37.9% from three at home, 42.9% from three on the road. Chad is shooting 34.7% from three at home, 44.2% from three on the road. So if you are looking for something to feel good about, and if you were wanting me to say, why can this team have success in the postseason? They've played better away from home. And it's the same thing that we've talked about with Alabama. It's why has this team, typically you're comfortable at home. You have your fan base at home. And Bruce Pearl and Steven on the show has said, a lot of these guys like being the villain. They like being booed. And I think that that gives them a little extra juice. And for some reason, they've just seemed to perform better away from home. So I think that is something, if you are feeling down, if you have lost all hope after Auburn lost 2 games, look at how they've played on the road. They've played very well on the road. They've played very well when they're playing good teams on the road. And that's something that isn't normal. Typically teams are going to play better at home. So I think that's something that if you need something to keep you going right now, a lot of Auburn's key players that I think can be X factors at times, a number of these guys have been the X factor in, whatever game you want to look at. A different guy's typically stepping up, and a lot of those guys that seem to make big plays when Auburn needs them play better on the road. So let's just look at it that way.
I will say this. This basketball team, in my opinion, is still the best basketball team in the country. But they've got to stop doing these little things, this extra stuff that doesn't matter, that makes them the best basketball team in the country. Like Johni needs to just be the best basketball player in the country and do his things and stop trying to work the officials for an extra foul. Um, I don't think that plays well with the officials, right? And I think it can get into his head a little bit. I want him to go into Chad Baker-Mazara, but he has to stop trying to bait other players into committing flagrant ones on him, leading him to at some point getting. I mean, he's got to stop that crap and just be one of the best defenders. And he had played a couple of his best games in a row together. Just be your great self and stop all that other stuff. Miles and Tahad, you're hitting so many 3-point shots. Stop trying to get a 4-point play by sticking a leg out or jumping into somebody while you shoot the threes. Just take the three. Stop doing those little bitty things that can get you off track a little bit, and just do what you've done most of the year. just be the best basketball team in the country. You've got the talent, you've showed it, you've got that resume, you got 15 quality wins, Q1 wins. Just don't get caught up doing the other little crap and just go out there when you get to the NCAA tournament and win 6 games, and don't try to do it with, a flagrant on the other team, trying to draw that, or, trying to get a 4-point play instead of a 3-point play. Drain the three, take that, move on and play a little defense. They're so talented. It's those little extra things that they're trying to do that sometimes put them in a downward spiral in the moment of a game. Most of the time, they've been able to survive it and come back out either not finishing well, they had such a big lead, or they'd have a small point in the game where they'd let somebody back in, then they'd go beat them by double digits. It's such a talented basketball team. I would hate to see them self-inflict a problem in the NCAA tournament coming up. That's just my opinion from the outside looking in. Add one here from David earlier. I didn't get a chance to send this one to you. Did you see the Alabama win coming, or that effort from Alabama? I'll answer first. No, I did not. I was driving down to Auburn, did not think Alabama would win that basketball game. But here's what I saw. It was what you were talking about with Auburn. They played really well at Tennessee, one of their better games of the year, and lost that game. Um, they played really well on the road, and that team has stayed together a little bit. They have some major flaws, but that was a gutty effort. So I did not see that coming, but I think that's a good sign for this team going into the NCAA tournament. And you remember we talked about it a couple of times in this show. Even after the Tennessee loss and then after the Florida loss, I said I like where this team is. Now, I thought I was going to have to say that after an Auburn loss too. I didn't have to do that though. But I do like what this Alabama team is right now. There's a couple of teams that would be a disastrous draw for them. I won't name them yet. I'll save that for the next round. But I have 2 or 3 teams I don't want to see on their side of the bracket when we get to Selection Sunday a week from now, that could absolutely destroy Alabama in the round of 32, the round of 16, or the Elite Eight. We'll see how the bracket falls, but I like where Alabama is right now. Did you ever think you'd see that from Alabama yesterday in that effort from David?
No, I mean, I thought that Auburn was going to win the game.
Me too.
I knew that, I mean, everyone knows that Alabama's a very good basketball team, but no, I mean, I thought Auburn was going to win. They could have won, and they didn't finish the game, but no, I didn't, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
And it happened.
Yeah. And they actually played pretty good defense at times too. So that's a positive for Alabama. Um, RTR 256. Do you think we see Auburn, Alabama part three? Do you think we see Auburn, Alabama part three? I'll go first. If we do, I hope it's not in Nashville. Is that fair?
My response was, I guess, not what I want necessarily, but my thought on that is I feel like if it does happen, I feel like it's more likely to happen in Nashville. None of the games are going to be easy because, like we've talked about all season, the SEC is loaded with elite teams. So it wouldn't be easy there, but and I think that why I'm about to say why I don't think that'll happen is why you want it to happen. They wouldn't see each other until, deep into the NCAA tournament.
Right.
They're not going to meet in the first or second round. So the reason that I think it would be in Nashville over it being in the NCAA tournament is because I think those teams are. I think it would be more likely that we see them in the championship. They both win 2 games in Nashville. They play each other in the championship than it would be for both of them to make it that far in the tournament without any hiccups. Obviously, we don't know how many games they would have to win to meet because we don't have the bracket yet. But I
I
don't
would
know.
bet. I would bet they'd have to win either 4 or 5 to
Yeah,
face each
it
other.
would be
Each
late.
other. Yeah, Final Four probably, either in the semis or the finals. But I'll say this about the reason I don't want it in Nashville, and the only way it can happen would be in the championship game on Sunday. I don't think it would help either teams. Um, I don't think it would help either team's NCAA tournament um, success rate if they played again, because I can only imagine what the third meeting, with the way it just played out in the first ever 1-2 matchup, or one versus one, depending if you're looking. I forget how that was billed back in Tuscaloosa when Auburn won by 9, and then you play it down at Neville and goes to overtime, and Sears hits the runner to win it. I mean, if you do it again, game may not be close, maybe a blowout, maybe it's another classic, who knows? But either way, both teams would expend an enormous amount, not just physical, because one of them or both of them will be playing for the championship, but the mental drain that it would be to play that game for a third time, the third game in 3 days, and then probably somebody will have to turn around, jump a plane on Tuesday, play on Thursday. Um, I just don't want to. I don't want to hurt either one of their chances of going deep into the NCAA tournament. So I would rather it be Alabama versus somebody else for the championship. Wait, or Auburn versus somebody else for the championship on Sunday in Nashville. Not those two again. But we can't control that. You understand what I'm saying, though? If they play again in Nashville on Sunday, what's really on the line? A conference tournament championship. Okay, yeah, we get excited about that, but of the three championships you play for, the least important one to me is the conference tournament, right? The regular season championships above that, and the national championships above that. So that would be the least important of the championships. The championships nonetheless, but I just would hate to spend all that energy and bandwidth mentally for those two teams to play again on Sunday and then have to turn around and go to the games that really will matter in the long run. Do you feel differently?
No, I agree because it is such an emotional game for everyone
Oh,
involved. And I said this after the game on Saturday. I said, I mean, 4 matchups. If these two teams were to play 4 times this season, I just feel like someone would end up getting hurt because it's so emotional, because it's so physical. And
yeah,
that would chaos.
yeah.
Chaos would
I,
it
I
would
get
just I don't
I get the feeling it'd be me. I feel like you'd hurt me if we
I
played 4 times
might.
this year. Yes,
I
and that's why
might.
that's why people tune in. They want to see you throw something at me at some point.
But I mean,
That's why we're in separate locations tonight.
and the thing is the games have been so entertaining.
Oh
They've been so
yes,
fun to watch. So not saying that it wouldn't be an enjoyable game, but I do think that the level of emotion that goes into it is I'm just like, I hope that a line isn't crossed to where it ends up being, it ends up not being fun anymore because it's like, okay, this has just gotten a little bit out of hand.
yep.
And them playing over and over and over and over might be a great game, yes, but like I would rather watch a great game between, you know, the two and then two other elite teams because it's I don't know, I just feel like it has potential to get a little ugly.
Real quickly, Karen wants to know toughest possible Friday matchup for Auburn and Alabama. The toughest possible Friday matchup for Auburn and Alabama. I don't have the bracket in front of me, so give me everyone Auburn could play first, and I'll tell you who I think the toughest is, and then you tell me who you think the toughest would be, and then we'll do the same for Alabama. And I apologize for not having a printed bracket in front of me.
No, you're fine. So South Carolina and Arkansas will play, and then the winner of that game will play Ole Miss. The winner of that game will play Auburn. So Auburn's three potential opponents in the quarterfinals are Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Arkansas.
Okay, toughest game. Boy, Auburn seemed like they handled Ole Miss perfectly twice, both in Oxford and there. I still feel like Ole Miss is a better team than Arkansas. So I'm going to say Ole Miss would be the toughest match for the third time against Auburn on Friday. But truthfully, I like any of those games. I like Auburn in any of those games. I'll say Ole Miss. What about you?
I mean, it was obviously between Ole Miss and Arkansas. I leaned Arkansas just because, and I'm going to be contradicting myself here when we go to Alabama's side of things, but I think after watching Auburn play Ole Miss twice, I feel like that's been a good matchup for Auburn.
Yep.
And the Arkansas game was close. It was one of those ones, that Auburn had that stretch of games where they weren't really running away with any of them. And that was one of them. So I think after watching Auburn play Ole Miss handedly 2 times this season, I think Arkansas would make me a little more nervous.
Yeah, I see that. It's a good answer. I say Ole Miss, but I could 100% say Arkansas. And for Karen on the Alabama side, what would be the toughest Friday matchup? Who is the possibilities?
So Oklahoma and Georgia will play. Winner of that will play Kentucky, and then winner of that will play Alabama. So Alabama's three potential opponents are Oklahoma, Georgia, and Kentucky.
Okay, who's the toughest one in your opinion?
Kentucky, and this is why I'm going to contradict myself because I think that it's very challenging to beat a team 3 times in a row just because I think that. I'm not going to pull out any sort of stat or analytic to back that up. That seems challenging to do. And I am contradicting myself because I'm saying Ole Miss. Auburn beat them. They would have to beat them a third time. But I just think that matchup, the game in Tuscaloosa, not as competitive as the one that was in Lexington earlier this season. But I'm going Kentucky for
Yeah.
Alabama.
Well, I mean, Kentucky always has the possibility of being healthy, which makes them dangerous. They're a better team. I almost want to go Georgia just because of Asa Newell, but I'm going to go Kentucky too. They've got more studs, and I like that matchup though. I have all year long for Alabama, and I think there would be a comfort level there. But there's enough star power there for Kentucky to make that interesting. And you know this because we were there last year. There will be 80% of the arena will be Kentucky fans,
They
and
travel.
yeah, they travel really well. And I would imagine there'd be 10% of the other 20% will be Auburn fans cheering against Alabama because they travel well too. So they'll hang around from the day session and cheer against Alabama. So it would be almost like a road game against Kentucky. So that'll make it tough. All right, that's the mailbag today for the basketball show. And we will be in Nashville. We'll decide later on if we got another taped one before we get to Nashville. We'll let you know about that. So set your alerts and stay on our social media at Next Round Live and on Taylor and mine Twitter, and we'll let you know if we have another episode of the basketball show before Nashville. If not, we'll be live after the games on Friday and Friday night. So we'll have two live shows happening on Friday. They'll be a little delayed up in Nashville. I think we'll play it by ear,
Yeah.
but we also will have some locker room responsibilities. So depending on the cooling off period, we'll decide whether we do a quick hit and then jump into the locker room or do a longer hit after we do the locker room. But again, always set your alerts and stuff. We'll plan out that trip to Nashville, and then we'll watch Selection Sunday together, and we'll have a live show for that too. So that'll be fun. All right, Taylor, anything else you want to add before we're done here?
Yes, actually, because I just am seeing this, and this is
Oh,
this is insane. Chris Marler just posted a graphic on Twitter, and he's just been pulling random stats out, and it's all basically been either the SEC in comparison to Duke or the SEC in comparison to the ACC, that type of stuff. And they're very interesting. He's done a number of them. And he just posted one and he said to put things in perspective. And the graphic shows Auburn's wins over top 25 opponents versus the ACC. Auburn has 3 more wins versus top 25 teams than the entire ACC conference has this season. So
yeah.
that's something. That is something.
I feel like I should have an Alabama stat here.
Well,
Yeah,
I
you end with an Auburn nugget. I like it.
Yeah, well, I was not planning on doing that. He tagged us in it, and so that's why I saw the notification. I was like, let me see what this is in case it's anything that I want to bring up here.
Okay.
And
How about this? I'll leave you with this. I've got a picture of something from post game that I need to find out if we can post it or not without getting somebody in trouble. But once we do that, check Taylor and at Next Round Live tomorrow. If it's okay for me to post it, I will post it. We'll post it tomorrow at Next Round Live. How's that for a tease?
yeah,
But if it,
I'm
but if
teased.
But if it's going to get anybody in trouble, I will eat the photo and not do it. How about that?
Okay. Well, I hope it's
Okay.
not going to get anyone in trouble. Now all these people are about to be on the edge of their seats.
Yeah, that's if you stay to the end of the basketball show, you got a little teaser there at the end. All right, that's the basketball show. You guys have a great week.